Hello, and sorry for being so late. My name is Chamshi Gimbap. I am the Conspiracy Fish. Welcome you to this chat with someone that really needs no introduction to anybody that watch any other channel from the left. I am joined by Angels. Angels, please introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, it's me, Angels. Probably most of you already know that the reason why this stream is so late is because of me, because I'm going to be late for my own funeral. So I'm sorry about that. But, you know, I'm working from home, so I have to deal with what we've got, I suppose. So what I'm actually quite gutted about is that I don't have a tinfoil hat because I didn't have time to make one. But whatever. I know. I'm gutted. He's got one. I don't have one. But since we're doing conspiracy theories, which is like literally one of my favorite things, I could binge watch them online for hours. What's the first thing that we're going to cover, Chamchi?
Well, before we get on to that, I wanted to ask you what do you really find interesting? What do you look for in a good conspiracy theory? Where is the meat on a good conspiracy theory?
Well, one of my favorites, right, is like, you know how you have visual evidence like the moon landing, etc., etc. We look at the photos from like Apollo 11 and people say, oh, why are the shadows cast like this? There's only one light source and all this. So I like looking at sort of the visual, like the photos, like even with Marilyn Monroe too, you know, like after she had passed away, there was pictures of like the scene, what drugs were on the side and like all of this. So I look at that and I'm like, that doesn't add up. Like the moon landing one to me was particularly weird because some of the pictures just look, I mean, especially considering obviously the advancement of cameras and stuff like that we've got now, it looks fake. It looks like it's something off a theatre stage, you know, and it's obviously particularly dodgy. Now that we can compare it with reality, like, you know, with much better sort of quality stuff in reality. So I don't know, like Apollo 11 to me was all a massive thing. At first, I was like one of those skeptics, like a total skeptic. I was like, fucking conspiracists, like nutcases. And like, honestly, like Alex Jones style, I was just like, whatever. And then I started to just for fun, really, like while I was falling asleep and stuff, which is like watch conspiracy documentaries. And I watched a few on Apollo 11 specifically, like moon landing as a whole, but Apollo 11 specifically. And I was like, this stuff does not add up. And also the behavior of like the astronauts afterwards was not the type of behavior like of one of the first people to walk on the moon. Like personally, if I walked on the moon for the first time, I'd be like, hey, guess what I did? You know what I mean? And they just sort of disappeared into oblivion, and I don't know, they were just strange. Like the whole thing to me was a bit odd. But I mean, like I said, it might have happened, and maybe I'm just looking for things that aren't there. But when I saw those documentaries, I was like,
well, if we took conspiracy theories as a whole, what I tend to look for are you know, motives. Okay, so is there a political motive for this conspiracy? I also look for whether a financial motive. Is there a financial motive for this conspiracy to be true? And I also look for a personal motive. You've just muted yourself, by the way.
I know. My phone was buzzing.
Okay. So if it addresses two of those three things, then I think, oh, they're obviously trying to cover up something. So if we look at, for instance, our first question coming from you, which is, you've muted yourself.
Jesus. The first question is, was the moon landing, and specifically the original moon landing, a hoax for political reasons?
To be honest, if we look at the geopolitical, you know, situation of the time, and you take it that at face value, you know, there is a really good case. Was there a political motive to fake the moon landing?
Well,
Definitely,
of course there was.
Yes, yeah.
Tell us why. Well, you and I were talking about this just before we went live, but of course it was the space race era. It was the tensions between Russia and the US. It was basically, as you mentioned before, right? Russia winning the space race ultimately. Previously, Kennedy had said that before the end of the decade, there will be a man on the moon. Now, they left it damn late, considering it was in 1969. You know, and what is that like? It's just chance that it happened to be in 1969 that they suddenly land someone on the moon. Like, I mean, the Russians put Sputnik up well before that, and they were well ahead. So was there reasoning to flex their muscles in like a political sense? Yeah. And so, you know what I mean? All of those things actually come into play when you're talking about it. Like, you don't really have to be like a tinfoil hat wearing, like you, crazy conspiracist to at least recognize those factors, right? So
I think that's right. When you look at the photo imagery from the time, you can see, as a photographer myself, you can see that they've put in false horizons, that kind of stuff. I mean, I will move on to why I think that is, but that's a further conspiracy beyond the moon landing. But yes, they have put in false horizons. They have filled in black areas. They have you know, done all sorts of you know, dodging and burning to cover up all sorts of bits and pieces within there. So yeah, go on, Karen.
Yeah, it was also, I wanted to add, like, you know how I said, oh, a lot of the, like, the footage of the like moon landing and stuff, some of it looks really fake, but like I said, it might not be that it was fake, but maybe they faked some of the footage in order to appease the public, kind of thing, and to, you know what I mean, to be like, look what we did, kind of thing, and to get it at just the right angle so that the shots looked really impressive. So, like I said, it's not just because one thing is faked doesn't necessarily mean that all of it is, you know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I have been through the conspiracy files when it comes to the moon landing, and if you look at all the steps that they would have had to do, you know, they would have needed a big enough kind of studio. I mean, I will be honest with you, I'm not sold on the whole conspiracy thing on this one, and you know, they the measures that they would have had to take to actually fake it, I think if you added up all the dollars it would have cost, it would have been easier to actually just send someone to the moon in the first place, you know. Especially with, you know, well, you know, it's just my idea. I mean, I'm not. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, but like NASA's the technology in 1969 is a far cry from technology in 2018, and people always make the comparison. Well, look, many people have like more technology now in our pocket than the entire of NASA had in 1969. So if they're struggling, this is actually another thing I saw recently, an actual astronaut from NASA saying, oh, we'd like to go back to the moon, and they would talk about Mars missions too, and they go, but the problem is that we don't know how to get through the Van Allen radiation belts. I'm like, well, if you've got a problem with that now,
how did you do it in the first place?
How did you, yeah, like now you say, oh, we can't go through Earth's orbit because of this. How the hell did you do it several times in 1969 and after? Like, it doesn't make sense, you know?
Well, my question to you would be, how do you explain all the moon rock we have in different museums?
This is okay. So this is one of my favorite things, right? The moon rock that was given to a museum, I think it was in Amsterdam actually, was actually ended up being something like fossilized wood or something. Did you see that?
Oh, really? No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, ended up being like fossilized wood. So It's really weird. I don't know. I just find the whole thing really questionable. Whether or not the other moon rock is fake, I guess we don't know. Like we have a friend, right, who is a physicist at one of the local universities, and he was sent some moon rock to look at and to examine and things like that. And I mean, you could sort of tell someone it was anything technically, right? Because nobody knows, do they? So
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay, so the if we take that conspiracy to the next level, now I'm really familiar with the camera equipment they supposedly took to the moon, right? And it was a Hasselblad 6.7. Now, digital camera equipment are only just catching up to that kind of quality that camera was actually capable of. It was a serious camera, and apparently they left it on the moon because of all the samples that they brought back, and because of the power to weight, they couldn't actually bring it back. So there used to be this inside joke to photographers: if you want a Hasselblad 6.7, a very expensive camera, then there's always one in the moon you can go and pick up. So there was always this in kind of joke. So the idea behind, what I was saying about the false horizons and how they've filled in stuff is about they actually, when they went to the moon, they actually found kind of made structures, things that obviously haven't been formed by nature. They were obviously formed by an alien life form. Have you heard about that? Idea?
No. Explain about that. That sounds fun.
Okay, so if you look at this, I don't know incredibly detailed, but I mean that's essentially what it is. When you look at the pictures that they took from the moon with the camera they had there, that they say, oh yeah, it's because they're at the top of a hill. That's why the horizon is so short and things like that. But what it actually means is they were taking pictures of man-made structures, or not man-made, but alien-made, obviously. And when they got the pictures back, they blacked them out, and of course that then will explain why the astronauts then went into they became hermits and came out of the they came out of society. If you was it Buzz Aldrin was the one that drove the he was the second person on the moon, right?
Yeah, it was Neil Armstrong first and Buzz Aldrin second, and he drove the lunar rover that they drove across the moon, and supposedly that they left it there and stuff. But then since, I mean, I don't know about you, but I haven't actually seen any evidence since. I'm sorry, I'm actually emailing work at the same time as this. But like, I haven't really seen any evidence that's there since. So I'm just like, I don't know. It just seems really strange. Like I said, it may well have happened. It may well have happened, but I just feel like some of the footage, at least, was staged. Yeah,
definitely. Maybe. Who knows? I don't suppose we'll ever know.
Well, I mean, the thing is, are there photographs from it since? Like, I mean, like, as far as satellite photos for what's on the moon, or they can't get close enough to have a coherent picture, or what?
Who knows? I've seen Buzz Aldrin on like a number of documentaries, like alien documentaries, saying that he did see structures on the surface of the moon. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Okay.
But yeah.
Did you see? Sorry. Did you see? No. It's fine. Have you ever seen? I saw it on YouTube. A video of Buzz Aldrin. I'm trying to find it so I can link it. There's a video of Buzz Aldrin absolutely off his nut, like drunk, like absolutely hammered, like crying and going on about. Oh God, I wish I could find it. I can't. And he was like crying and going on about like how he's a fraud and all this.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And apparently it's not the first time he's broken down and said that. Like, he did actually say that to other people in the past. So I find that really odd in itself, because like you said, the other astronauts aside from Buzz, so you've got Michael Collins and Neil Armstrong, right? And they sort of both became like social recluses almost. Like, they didn't really want to interact with anyone. They were really like shifty. They never took interviews, like all of that kind of stuff, which is quite fishy in itself, isn't it? I mean, you'd expect them to at least like give interviews on mainstream things. And Neil Armstrong, on a really rare appearance, you've probably seen this if you're a bit of a moon landing like conspiracist like me, but there's a rare talk of his, because he was obviously not really seen since. There's like a rare talk of his where he's I think he's at the White House or something, and he's talking to a bunch of young students, and he's basically saying, you are some of the brightest and best, and hopefully I think he said something like, hopefully you can peel back some of truth's protective layers. And it was like such a veiled remark, and it was like just watch it. It's online, and it's just strange. Like, it just comes across odd. You know what I mean? It's not the type of words that you would expect from the first guy to walk on the moon.
Yeah. Angels, I need to ask you a question. I did send G Whistler an invitation and said maybe he can be a voice of reason within these conversations. How do you fancy having a third person join us?
Why not?
Sure.
The more the merrier.
Yeah, he's not, he's not the most talk. Oh shit, my mic just landed in my lap. He's not the most talkative of people anyway, and he generally only opens his mouth when he's he has something to say. So that's always nice. It means he's always willing to listen, which is cool. Yeah. So just cool. Got to him and invite to G. See how he likes.
Okay,
that. So are we going to move on to the next one? Are we?
Yeah. Yeah, we are. Who's some guys have been chatting in the
yeah. Do you want to read out some comments? If some of the comments caught your eye, read them out.
Yeah, well, I saw Stizer was just mentioning about what was left on the moon, and like whether or not it's been seen, and apparently it has. So, but Swiss says loving the tinfoil hat. I know, I'm so gutted I haven't got one. Time to make one.
I'm going to have to take this off soon because my head is getting really, really sweaty. So, do you mind if I'm going to have to take it off? I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
Tinfoil doesn't breathe. Like,
also James Fielding says that Buzz Aldrin was an alcoholic. That's true. That was one of the reasons, like what I said before, he almost couldn't take it afterwards, like when they came back, and he's been like in and out of, from what I understand, in and out of rehab, and he broke down on numerous occasions, and he's been like heard in bars basically saying, he feels really bad because a lot of it was a hoax, etc.
Okay, let's move on. So the next one is mine, and the question is, was 9/11 an inside job? Now, I want to focus on a couple of details here, right? Now, the first thing, if we're looking at political motivation, was there political motivation, and is there still political motivation? Yes, of course. If we look at things like the Patriot Act that was brought in the US, the fact that they went to war off the back of this, even though due to the Chilcot report, we know that 6 months before, Bush and Blair had already agreed to go to war with Iraq. They just needed an excuse. Okay. Also, I want to say that I really want to focus on the collapse of Building 7. Okay.
Oh, right.
And the reporting by the BBC. Okay. And if I give you all these points, there is one more kicker that I want to bring up, but I think this could be down to poor journalism, I don't know, but it's all over the mainstream. But what do you think of these things anyway going forward?
So was 9/11 an inside job? So much of it is very, very dodgy. Like you said, it also has the whole political motivation surrounding it. So it actually has a bit of everything to be, you know, that a conspiracy theory wants. Now, when you take a look at so fair enough, if 9/11, the Twin Towers, we know that obviously the damage that was done to them, and then the, you know, eventual collapse of them. But Building 7 is a completely different matter. I mean, when you look at it, it is the epitome of a controlled explosion. And inside the building itself, you can see that there's literally just a couple of small fires. Now, how can a couple of small fires inside a steel frame building totally flatten it? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It looks like a controlled explosion.
Yeah.
It really does. Even the way it falls, like, it falls totally straight. It looks controlled. Like,
you could apply that to all three buildings. They all collapse within their own footprint, which is pretty fucking weird. Now, I think this is where the best conspiracy theories, they generally work within the grey areas, you know?
Yeah.
Because the best conspiracy theories, you know, it's the difference between, you know, what we see and what independent people say and what the mainstream media tells us. You know, I understand there's the whole national security thing to deal with, especially with something like you know, 9/11. But you know, why give the people like this area to construct these conspiracies? I mean, I've heard some really crazy shit when it comes to 9/11, but when it comes to the fact the buildings, I mean, all three of them really collapsing within their own footprint. And Building 7, you know, a building of, you know, steel and glass, hardened glass, because it's a government building, being collapsing due to fire. Now, I was talking with G Woods a few days ago about this, and I didn't understand how a building that secure could collapse when, if you look at say Grenfell, I mean, God bless their souls, how that building burnt for hours and hours and hours, and if you go there now, it's still standing.
Of course it is. I go past it on a regular basis. It's right down the road, as you know. You're a local lad, weirdly. But yeah. And I mean, actually, my dad is a civil engineer, right? And he sort of knows a lot when it comes to, like, the, you know, the structure of buildings and all this. And he's like, a building like that just simply is not made to collapse in that fashion. Like, it just should not happen. It should withstand, because there's, like, he tried to explain to me that there was, like, multiple threads or something that all basically weave together, and they can withstand, you know, like, bending basically back and forth. So they're actually built to withstand something like that, an impact from the side or whatever. And it just, they didn't act in a way like a steel frame building should at all.
Steel and hardened glass. I mean, the glass, there was a strengthening factor as well. It's not like you know, this is reinforced concrete, steel and glass. G, do you have a comment on this?
Yeah, I mean, steel weakens at a certain temperature, so it doesn't melt, it loses its structural integrity. So that's what happens.
Yeah, I understand that, but it will lose its structural integrity at, you know, was it 1500 to almost 2000 degrees, especially this kind of galvanized steel, you know. It's strong stuff. It's strong stuff.
Can you guys excuse me for 2 minutes? I'm just getting a work call. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no worries.
It's not work, it's the government.
Should I get my tinfoil hat back on? Where is it? Hang on, here we go. There you go. How's that for you?
Safe now.
Yeah. So I know you sent me some evidence the other day, and I suppose this relates back to what Swiss and I can't remember, Scott Bauer, what they were talking about last night, and my emotional attachment to the conspiracy, I suppose, is I just can't accept any like logical evidence when it comes to Building 7. It's just like, no, it's obviously all lies. You know.
Well, it seems quite plausible. I don't have a problem with the notion that was put forward as the sort of, you know, official story, the investigation. You know, the debris hit World Trade Center 7. Fires ignited, steel was melted. Well, not melted, as I said, steel weakened. And in time, after what was it, however many hours, the building just gave.
Yeah. I don't see, like, after Grenfell, I really can't buy that. And of course, at the time, there is no precedence for a steel and glass building like that to collapse from fire, right?
Well, it had also been hit by debris. It wasn't just fire.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, granted, it was hit by debris, but really, do you think that much? Do you think a few rocks, like, or a few bricks going through or hitting the windows would? To be honest, I don't think a single brick from World Trade Center 1 or 2 would have actually got through the glass, let alone anything else.
Well, you can see pictures of it. It smashed the building. I mean, it did significant damage. It wasn't just a few bricks. I mean, this is a 2 towers hit by jetliners. That's unprecedented. We can't.
Oh, sure. But you know, the architect beforehand said this building is, or these buildings are. I with all the mathematics that they did, you know, through the civil engineering, we are sure that this could withstand, you know, 2 or 3 direct hits by 737, 747 jetliners, which were the biggest at the time.
Well, sure, but what they say and what then bears out in reality, is a completely different thing.
I'm with you.
We can't know until it happens, you know.
Sure. But you know, you have computer simulations, and you know, our mathematics and our science and our engineering are pretty fucking good, you know. So you know, we send satellites up, and you know, we build these super fast cars, and you know, science works. You know, engineering works. Sure. That's the thing. Do you think they were that far out on their estimations?
Well, I've no way of knowing. I mean, I suspect they did the best they could, but we obviously cannot know until someone actually flies a jetliner into a building, and nobody really thinks that's ever going to happen, and then it did, and it hasn't happened since. I mean, this is unprecedented. This is uncharted territory.
I do appreciate that, and but this is why I wanted to stay away from buildings 1 and 2 and just concentrate on building 7, really. So, but we will talk about more. I mean, I don't know how long Angels is going to be, but yeah, I think that. I mean, are you satisfied with the evidence to say that it wasn't an inside job?
Yes. I mean, you know, in the absence of sufficient evidence, I'm not going to grant that it was an inside job. I don't see any reason to do so. Also, if it was an inside job, Occam's razor would tend to suggest that you wouldn't need extraneous details. You wouldn't need to complicate the plot. So if you were going to have a plan to wire up the Twin Towers somehow, why would you then involve 4 aircraft and a plot to take down the Pentagon?
Yeah.
And then have some kind of fakery involving United 93, which obviously went down because it wasn't successfully hijacked. So then you have all this extra stuff, which just makes it utterly implausible. I don't buy it.
Yeah, you do need, you know, for extraordinary circumstances, you do need extraordinary evidence, and I'm with you on that 100%. With the NORAD thing, that's a bit weird with the insurance policy that was taken out 2 months before. If the buildings got destroyed, I thought that was really, really dodgy.
But actually, they're true. That's the problem. These are popular claims that get passed down, but I suspect there's some Chinese whispers going on there, as they say. I don't know if that's actually, you know, the whole NORAD was told to stand down. Even if that was the case, it could just be an awful coincidence. But I'm convinced.
Well, they have
as to
records.
whether that actually was what would happen.
They have NORAD like audio files that because there were war games going on at the same time. So NORAD was told to stand down. So, and it was the same thing during the 7/7 bombings, but that's a whole other conspiracy. You know, because there were war games going on, they were like, you know, okay, yeah, 4 planes are being hijacked. Is this real life or is this now? And you can go online, you can listen to them. You know, so the fact that 4 planes were managed to be hijacked by a number of terrorists or Islamist sympathizers with box cutters and managed to do the feat that they did, again, it's I still don't. I'm still not sold on the. I'm not sold on the conspiracy theory, to be honest, 100%, because it's a conspiracy theory, and the point of conspiracy theories is they lack that key piece of evidence. But I'm also not sold on the official story either. You know, so
why?
A couple of things. The mainstream media action at the time, the fact within a couple of days. I'm trying to save this one thing for when Angels comes back.
Okay.
But you know, the lack of wreckage from the planes. I mean, if you look at buildings 1 and 2, which I really didn't want to so much, I really want to concentrate on 7. But buildings 1 and 2, they had vertical struts. I think it's about what, nine vertical struts, could have been 8. And they had horizontal struts through each floor. Right now, I understand that with planes hitting and jet fuel, and you know, fires burning really hot, that they can weaken the galvanized steel struts enough to fail on one floor, but I don't see it over the entire column of the entire structure. Does that make sense?
Well, there would have been a kind of snowball effect. Once it starts to go, then it goes. I mean, what else other reason is there? I mean, I don't know what else would you have to explain it with.
Well, the reason being is that beforehand they were lacing the place with thermite, and because of the insurance policy, which was much higher than the building's worth, they decided to pull the plug on the whole thing and just demolish it. But instead of just demolishing it and rebuilding, because that would have cost money, why not get the insurance companies to pay for it?
Well, you'd have to prove that claim. I mean, I don't think that's credible.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. That's fair enough, G. I mean, if you don't feel that's credible, that's fair enough. Again, because of the way conspiracy theories work, it's like I can't say, oh yes, but look at this piece of evidence. Yeah, no, it's that. I'm sure there is a circumstantial piece of evidence out there to prove you wrong, but you know.
Do you like my tinfoil hat?
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, I might as well put my work call to good use. So I was like, in the background, like la la la, like half muted, just trying to make myself a hat. But I get what you mean about how freaking boiling it is.
Yeah, it's a bit hot, isn't it?
Well, especially when you got like the amount of hair that I've got. Yeah.
So here's like when we talk about how the mainstream media reported in while it was happening. So anybody that can remember 9/11, where were you? What were you doing? So Angels, 9/11, where were you? What were you doing?
So when 9/11 happened, I literally remember this like it was yesterday. I was working for the company, you know, the car rental company, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and they're an American company. And the office that I was working in, which was actually in Thorpe, so you probably know that. I was working there, and the whole office was literally jam-packed with Americans. So I just remember like hearing sort of breaking news. It flashed up and it was on the radio everywhere and stuff. And I remember the people like who I worked with running down the corridors, like just desperate to get in touch with their loved ones, relatives, anyone they knew who worked in New York. And it was like when I saw that, I didn't obviously really know exactly what was happening at that point because we were still getting the reports in. But you know, that awful sinking, dawning feeling where you're like, okay, this is something catastrophic has happened. Do you know what I mean? And I remember getting that feeling, and just it was almost like time stood still for a while. And then I think that there were reports after the first plane had hit, but before the second, right? And then I think it was being filmed like when the second plane actually hit. So, and I remember like the horror of, you know, watching something in slow motion, which you know is going to be catastrophic and there's nothing you can do about it. And I remember that like horror, like that dawning feeling when I was watching the news, and I was like, this is so horrendous. And then obviously, because how long did it take for the buildings to collapse?
It was, I think, all right, so I was at work. I was working for Carphone Warehouse, and the shop that we had, or sorry, showroom, wasn't a shop. Come on, give me some credit. So we had TVs at the back of the shop, and my where I sat and I used to do my business was opposite the TVs, and I was serving these customers during lunchtime. So it's about 1 o'clock, I think, the first plane hit. And I'm sitting there watching the news, and it's like breaking news, because we always used to have like, I think it was BBC News just running in the background. Yeah. And I was looking at, I always used to have one eye above the customer's shoulder because, you know, I was just bored. And it's really rude, I know, but hey, you know.
Of course you were bored. It's Carphone Warehouse. Jesus.
Yeah, exactly right. So, and I saw the second plane hit, and I looked at the customer. I said, sorry, but can you watch this for me, with me for a second, because I'm not quite sure if this is real. I'm not sure if it was like doing a movie advertisement or whatever. So I was like, watch this with me and tell me what you think. And their jaws just dropped, and I was like, oh shit, this is real, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was almost, you're right, it was one of those things where you can't actually believe it's happening. It was like so horrendous, and you just I mean, I actually also, the collapse of the buildings was like,
I think it was about 3-4 hours later. I think it was like 4 or 5 o'clock that afternoon that they collapsed.
Right.
I believe, but you know, this is going from memory, and this was a long time ago. So
let's talk about Building 7, because that is so dodgy. That to me is the dodgiest one.
Okay, so there was some stuff that I was saving for you to come back. Now, what I thought was one of the dodgiest things was the BBC News representation, right? And the fact that hang on, let me show you pictures. Oh my god, the fucking mic!
Don't spill the wine.
No, I just fucking knocked my mic off my desk again. So I'm going to share my screen in a second. One moment. Okay, it's a really dodgy picture. So
this is like the best way to be sending work emails whilst wearing a tinfoil hat on a stream about conspiracy theories. We should do this more often.
So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, here we go. So this is what I love. this is live. BBC World, the 47-story Salomon Brothers building close to the World Trade Center has also collapsed. And as you see the arrow in the background, World Trade Center 7 is still here. You know, this is what I think is really, really funny. Now you could put it down to just shitty journalism, but for fuck's sake, this is just weird. It's just totally fucking weird for me. You know, so yeah.
Like that can't be explained away unless, of course, like you said, maybe it was just covered badly. Do you know what I mean? It might literally just be down to that.
Yeah,
well,
that's true.
Reuters had put out an incorrect statement. They had said that they reported that one of the buildings at the World Trade Center, 7 World Trade Center, had collapsed beforehand, and that's where the BBC got it from.
Oh, right. So it is just shitty communication through, you know, like Associated Press. Reuters is part of the AP, aren't they?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very chaotic. It's a very chaotic day. There's all sorts of, you know, stuff going around. It's not inconceivable that things get misreported in the heat of live TV, and that appears to be what happened, I'm afraid.
Okay. Now, before we move on to the next one, my final point is, right, now when Building 7 and World Trade Center 1 and 2, they all collapsed, right? Now, you couldn't find, it's very rare that you found a piece of airplane, let alone a desk or a table or a fucking phone or a table or a chair or a door or anything. Everything was pulverized, right? Okay, and it's dust everywhere and it's really, really shitty. But somehow they managed to find a hijacker's passport. Now explain. Apparently, they managed to find a hijacker's passport in the rubble of one of the in the rubble of the World Trade Centers.
So steel can get incinerated and paper survives. That makes sense.
Yeah. G Whistler, have you heard the story about the passport?
Yeah, I mean, it's a passport. So as the plane hits the building, all sorts of material is going to fly out. I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
Really?
No.
Really? So like, how many stories were the World Trade Centers? I mean, there were like what, 50 stories or something. They're crazy tall. They're crazy big buildings, right? And like I said, how many chairs and tables and doors and all these things, but you don't find how many phones, how many computers were in that building. I mean, like everything was pulverized, but you don't.
Well, I'm not sure that's actually true. Again, I don't know whether or not they haven't found anything else. I think you'd have to look at what was actually found. I think it was probably more than just one little passport, whereas everything else was, absolutely atomized. And the passport would have just fluttered down in the breeze and fallen onto the ground because. Well, why wouldn't it? I mean, that seems entirely realistic.
Well, I'd understand that if the plane had exploded in midair, but it hit a building, so it would have been surely inside the building and would have been pulverized with anything else. Also, I would assume it would be in one of the hottest parts. But...
Well, many passports probably were incinerated, and many bits of debris would have just flown out and ridden the breeze down to the ground.
Yeah, much like my EU passport, which will soon be incinerated, thanks to you lot.
Okay. So,
next thing.
Hang on. Before I go here, 9/11. This is on CNN, and you can go for this yourself. Hijack's passport found in WTC rubble.
Yeah, what? Just the one though? I mean, like
just one of them,
Oh.
One. I mean, I don't know how many people it takes to hijack a plane, but I assume it takes more than one person. And I assume there was more than one person on the flight. And why was there only one passport found?
And how many hijackers were they claiming that there was total on both the planes?
There's 3 planes, and I think there was 12 altogether. So let's say 4 for each plane.
Okay. So
no, hang on. Yeah, 4 planes.
4 planes?
Yeah. So
one crashed before it reached anywhere, right?
Yeah. So you've got 1 for each tower,
right.
1 for the Pentagon, and 1 for the one that was going towards. Where was the last place it was going towards? Come on, people in the chat, you can help me. Where was the last one?
Where it was going. It came down in Pennsylvania, I think.
That's right. Yeah, it came down in Pennsylvania.
Right. Okay. Do we know where it was actually meant to be headed for, though?
I don't know.
No.
Okay. So one
Pentagon.
So the Pentagon one. Oh yeah. Have you gone over the like where the plane hit the Pentagon, where it went through the wall, right? But it was really low. It was at a really, really low altitude. And I remember seeing one of our Tin Hat documentaries, which said,
was
like,
it InfoWars? Was it an Alex Jones one?
Alex Jones special. But it was, they said, like, the width of a jet, like a jumbo jet that size, right, was X amount of meters, and it was like wide, you know. Yeah. And then the hole left by whatever it was that hit the Pentagon was only something like 3 meters. Our guys in the side chat might know better, but I remember seeing that, and they went, there is no physical way that a plane of that size could fit into the hole that was left in the Pentagon. It's not physically possible. So what they were trying to say is that there was actually no plane, and if it was an inside job, it was actually like a tornado or like a missile.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, I mean, the amount of CCTV cameras around the Pentagon, you know, one of the most secure buildings in the world, they would have seen it coming. And if you've seen any video footage, it is very, very unsatisfactory. Very unsatisfactory. And it just reeks of a cover-up.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's it. Like, it just, I'm not even like one of those massive, you know, that some people are really sort of into conspiracies as a general thing. And whilst I enjoy them and they're fun to watch and stuff, I'm not like unrealistic. I'm sort of, so like if it did add up, I'd be like, okay, fine, like all the conspiracists are just being nutcases. But when it comes to little things like that, those are quite like glaring things that you can't really explain away. You know what I mean?
And I feel it's kind of the government's job, or at least, you know, the state-sponsored government to say, to at least give up a plausible explanation, you know, and say, you know, okay, this is why this happened, and I can't really see a plausible reason why they didn't see it coming, you know. But you know, anyway, I think we've exhausted this one for the moment. Let's move on to the next one, because, you know, I'm quite time conscious. So anyway, Angels, it's over to you. What's your question?
Okay. Was Marilyn Monroe murdered?
Dun, dun, dun. Was there a political motivation for this?
Yes, because her house was bugged to high heaven, which they later discovered actually when it was resold and some maintenance people came in. But
why?
Right,
why was the house bugged?
Okay, because she had connections with what was viewed as being you know, classified sort of information and dodgy people at the time. But she also, more importantly, had very well known and high profile affairs with both JFK and his brother Robert. So yeah, apparently she kept a red diary, and friends of hers have still talked about it like since. And she basically documented everything that she had spoken about with both the president and his brother, who was the attorney general. She towards the, or at least heading towards her death in the weeks sort of prior, like the week prior or the 2 weeks prior, she made numerous calls to the White House, which in the end they stopped taking because they were worried. They sort of thought that she might be losing the plot a bit, because she obviously had demons, and like she battled sort of drugs and like uppers and downers, like sedative drugs and things like that. And also booze, like her favorite drink was champagne and stuff. And she used to apparently she used to wash down pills with champagne. So she, she was quite a bit of a loose cannon then, obviously, as well.
Quaaludes were quite big at the time, weren't they?
Yeah,
in America?
yeah. Hers were. She was massively into sedative drugs, so it was like, that type thing. But I'm just looking here, and she apparently kept a red diary. She got annoyed that the president and his brother were like not taking her calls, and after a while she said, right, I'm gonna hold a press conference. So on the Friday or whatever it was, she said, right, I'm gonna hold a press conference and I'm gonna blow the lid off this whole damn thing on Monday, and like basically expose everything. And that night she was found dead.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing about this, right, is that when they did the autopsy, she, despite the fact that she had to have swallowed, I think that they estimated, in order to kill her, something like 40 odd pills, right? There was no water or liquid in the room for her to have taken them, not even champagne or anything. And the bathroom tap that was like the ensuite where she was found did not have running water at the time. And when they did the autopsy, she had only been dead. They tried to, and this is another thing. In between all this, an ambulance was called, supposedly. She was taken to hospital, and then she was pronounced dead, but then apparently replaced at the home. And there was like a 4-hour time delay before they got in touch with the police. It's really, really bizarre. Anyway, when they did the autopsy, there was not a trace of pill residue in either her stomach or her gut, which apparently there would have been. She hadn't, because often with overdoses people vomit, right, like before death, and there was not a trace of vomit. She didn't smell like booze, like nothing like that. And so and also her body was found in what was called the soldier's position, so face down, head to one side, like totally straight. Which is not typical of suicide by overdose, right? Because people like contort and curl up and things. So it was almost like the body had been placed after death. There was also what looked like bruising on her back, which means the blood was starting to pool on her back, which means she might have died on her back and then was placed on her front later. So it's very dodgy. I've looked into this one a lot, and I would not be surprised if the CIA or whatever, or somebody linked to the Kennedys did her in. But on to top everything off, just to make it even more complicated than it already is, I'm going to rustle my tinfoil hat and also let you know that she had really close ties to the mob at the time, and especially a mobster called Sam Giancana. And Jimmy Hoffa. I don't know whether you've read up about him and stuff. Who was also a big union boss and a bit of a mobster himself. So she had close ties to them too, and she apparently was renowned to get quite sort of loose-tongued after a few drinks, and she took drugs the entire time. So really, quite a lot of people had motives to, you know what I mean, meddle in her death. But what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I knew that. JFK, everybody knows that JFK had an affair with her, but I'm not really au fait on the whole Marilyn Monroe situation. I said this to you pre-stream, so this would be about you telling me what it's all about more than us both understanding. So. The fact that it ticked the first box, was there a political motive to get it done? I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I think it's basically, it reminds me, or has it reminds me of Bill Clinton.
And the Monica Lewinsky thing. And if I mean, I know that Bill Clinton got absolutely slaughtered for it, but he lied to people, straight up on filmed. I have not been into
you know, relationships outside of my wife, blah, 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 blah. And then he was faced to apologize for the whole thing, you know, a few months later, once it all came out. And I think with the absence of an independent press at the time, and obviously other such situations of getting information, I mean,
exactly.
we're talking, what, late 60s, early 70s?
Oh yeah, it was. So she died in 1962, actually. So it's
wow,
early 60s.
so early 60s. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm thinking of the assassination was late 60s, wasn't it, of JFK?
It says here August 1962.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, was there political motive? Enormous, probably arguably the biggest political motive, considering she was directly linked to the president of the day, and he was obviously a massively high-profile one too, because he was, you know, a really unusual one. He was like big change for America. Yeah.
I mean, he was putting in, you know, he wanted to pull out of Vietnam and everything. So, and that was a big
deal, like at the time.
Big deal. Yeah, it was.
But I mean,
the one thing that I really didn't know until you told me just now is that I didn't realize she was banging both brothers. Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah,
I knew she was. Yeah, I knew she had mob connections and all sorts of things. Yeah. I mean, she was judged to be the most beautiful woman in America at the time. So I'm not surprised that people wanted her attention and that they paid for her attention.
But actually there's something else really dodgy here to do with RFK, so JFK's younger brother, who she also had the affair with, right? Is that he was seen by multiple witnesses, including an on-duty police officer at the time, with Peter Lawford, the actor, one of the ex-members of the Rat Pack, with Peter Lawford and I think her doctor, like her psychiatrist, Dr. Oh God, what's his name? Ralph. Hold on, I've got all my shit here on my phone, which is dying. Ralph Greenson. So Dr. Greenson, Robert Kennedy, and Peter Lawford were all in a car together, and they were seen by multiple witnesses driving out of Los Angeles straight after her death, basically, like when her body was found. And then they flew him back out by helicopter to Boston or something like that. So that he would basically be nowhere near the scene and wouldn't be linked to it. And that in itself is really, really, really dodgy.
Yeah. I mean, it's completely dodgy. G, what's your verdict on the?
Well, I don't know enough about this. That's why I haven't said anything, because I don't know. I haven't looked into Marilyn Monroe's death at all. So I don't know. Maybe it was. It's possible, I guess. I don't know. I can't say either way. I'm having a cursory look on Tinternet, but
yeah, have a look. Have a quick look, because it's filled with the Marilyn Monroe saga is like one of the big ones. It's like.
Well, it seems to be saying that there is a lack of evidence for an affair between her and Bobby Kennedy. But in 2016, a letter from his sister Jean Kennedy Smith refers to that she published refers to it. So I don't know.
Yeah, see, I can find a load here, like the moment I put it in, but there's also multiple witnesses, like a girl or a woman she lived with at the time, before she moved into her house where she was found dead, which is in Brentwood, California or something. She lived with or above, like she was in an apartment block, and her close neighbor that was around there the entire time. I've seen her speak in documentaries, and she's like, oh no, it was a very regular thing, like Robert would just show up at the door, and it was like totally normal. So you know, you can only really take witness testimony, I suppose.
I don't. Well, maybe, I don't know. There doesn't seem to be huge evidence either way, but it's clear that she was seeing old JFK. Some people think she had an affair with Castro as well.
yeah.
That's a new one. I haven't heard that one.
when she was married to Arthur Miller, he had like close ties with communists and things, because he was actually taken in and grilled and like questioned at some point as well. So that's even more political motivation. And she was said to have known a lot of things, like a lot of inside info that she shouldn't have known. So, you know, I just feel like the political motive with Marilyn, ironically, because it wasn't exactly like she was a political figure, but the political motive with Marilyn is really, really strong, you know.
Right. Well, fair enough. I mean, as I say, I haven't looked into it. It's not been one, I've heard of it, obviously. It's been around for a while, but it's not been one of those sort of major ones that pops up. But I guess that's obviously compared to, you know, world-shattering terrorist events. It's not going to get up there.
Sorry, I was gonna say I will put that down to the matriarchy. To be honest, mate. I mean, I would understand that, and just finds this quite interesting because it's, you know, a very, you know, this is literally the matriarchy getting scared by a woman, you know, and that's so I do understand it. Right?
Yeah, no, but fine. I think. No, yeah. But I actually think that Marilyn Monroe, like I said, it was a very dodgy death. Now, I personally think if I had to put absolute money on it, and we can only speculate anyway, but if I had to put money on it, I think it was probably an accidental overdose. But but I think that maybe they were like, oh shit, like someone should have been watching her or you know, doing something. And I think that they might have cleaned up the scene afterwards so as not to implicate themselves. Hence the big gap between like her supposedly dying and then them calling the police was something like 4 hours. So yeah, that's just too long. It's dodgy.
I mean, there are definitely parallels between her death and, say, Lady Diana's death, you know. And, you know, was there a political motive to have them just be out of the way? Maybe. But then there's a little conspiracy thing inside my head that maybe, you know, Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, and Lady Diana are just chilling on some island somewhere, you know, in the middle of the Pacific, you know.
Can I quickly add? I'm getting a FaceTime call from someone at work, and I'm fucking wearing a tin hat, like a tin foil hat.
You should answer it like as you are, as you are.
No, I'm not. Oh gosh, I'm gonna call her back though. Just give me a sec. I'll be right back in a second. What's the next thing that you wanted to cover?
I'll wait for you to get here, but let's talk about this. Let's look at some. So, let's look at some comments. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at some comments. Blah 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 blah. I don't know how far we're going back.
I don't know. There's quite a few.
Stizer, it's good to see you on the stream. Good to see you're watching. Shafted, blah blah blah. What was the last one? Right. With regards to the fourth plane that got shot down in Pennsylvania, Shafted heard it was headed towards the White House. Yeah, maybe Pennsylvania is quite close to Washington DC, isn't it? I don't know really.
But, I think the passengers bring it down. It wasn't shot down.
It was brought down. Again, it's one of those things. Shafter said the passengers resulted, and there was a reenactment of it some months later on ITV, I think. Maybe Shafter.
Well,
nice one.
There's a movie about it as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, Stiles is agreeing with that. Bilderberg conferences were a conspiracy theory once also. Yeah. What do you think about the Bilderberg group? Do you think they really do meet on Jekyll Island and make the plans for the next few years on the grand chessboard, as it were?
Well, that's not a million miles from it. I mean, they're rich and powerful people having a meeting. That's what it seems to be. I mean, obviously, you know, every time they appear, you know, Alex Jones and his friends always turn up for some reason. But that's how he makes his money. I think it's not remotely implausible that powerful interests would meet to discuss. I mean, it's no different from a trade union, is it? All interests will do things like them to meet up. I don't know how far their power goes and sort of whether they sort of do anything sort of super major. But I mean, I suspect they meet up. They might discuss some policy or make some deals or whatever. That seems perfectly plausible. I don't know how far or how lurid the claims go with respect to Bilderberg, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair enough. Like you say, vested interests generally do meet together to talk about and how they can influence their spheres of influence. That makes sense. It's not out of the realms of human understanding, definitely. Shafted asked, you should talk about Diana's death because of the parallel that I assume because of the parallel that I drew towards Marilyn Manson. Yes, but not in this stream. Maybe we could do another one, and we'll talk about different ones. But I'm going to bring us bang up to date with my next one because I'm up next. So yeah. What else we got? I don't know. Federal Reserve, again from Shafted. Federal Reserve were formed by a secret meeting on Jekyll Island. Again by the Bilderberg Group, and that's why we have this boom and bust capitalist situation we have now. I would like to believe. That's when they removed things like the gold standard and things like this, and they sold it to the public on the understanding that there would be not another crash like what was it, 1928 was the big Wall Street crash. Is that right? Is my history right?
29.
Sorry, 29. Okay. I so. I was only a year out, mate. Year between friends.
It's not a big deal. I think we can allow it.
Okay. Okay. What else we got? Yeah. I don't think anybody's an Alex Jones fan. To be honest, I used to be. Before he went like totally batshit crazy. Like some of the stuff he used to talk about was pretty good. Like back in the mid-noughties, I used to eat his shit up, you know, about the New World Order. But he basically said that by 2010 everybody was going to be in FEMA camps and, you know, living on fucking bread and dripping for the rest of our lives. You know, it makes no sense.
Are we talking about Alex Jones?
Well, we're just going through the comments, actually.
Oh, right, okay.
We can't not talk about him. I think in any conspiracy conversation, his presence is always there.
Yeah.
Can I just say, like, my friend from work just called and I was like, believe it or not, I was just wearing a tinfoil hat, and she goes, "Oh my God, you've got to send me a picture of that." And I was like, okay, so I will. I'm gonna like take a picture.
Yeah, you're gonna take a screenshot. Like.
I'm gonna take a screening and like send it to her. She'll find it hilarious. Yeah, no, I'm gonna like take a selfie with my phone in a second when it's a little bit less dead.
All right, can you go, Angels? Can you go through a couple of the comments?
Yeah.
Because I'm busting for the old water closet.
Where did we get up to? Do you know?
G will sort you out. I'll be back in a second.
Federal Reserve, I think. Yeah, Federal Reserve, I think, was the last mentioned.
Okay.
Mentioned.
Rothschild owns central banks. Blah 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 blah. Maybe Russia has no. I don't know. I did hear that Putin kicked Rothschild out. That's called Bretton Woods. 1913 was the first crash. What are we talking about there? Sorry, my history is.
Federal Reserve banking. I'm not an expert on banking related conspiracies. No. But I think that's what it alludes to. I'm not sure. I seem to recall reading about something, hearing something about the Federal Reserve and oil and stuff. It's really interesting. You know Rob Newman, the comedian?
Yes.
He does some really good stuff on. He's got a piece called From Caliban to Taliban, which is a sort of comedy, slightly comedy. What do you call it? Like a presentation. You can get it's on YouTube. It's about a couple of hours long. He talks about how the First World War was basically not fought, because they always talk about Archduke Ferdinand and it was, you know, the Serbians and whoever, and he was assassinated. But it's really to do with controlling oil reserves in the coming century. And building a route of some kind down to the Middle East. It's really interesting, actually. He's done a lot of research.
Yeah. Oh, I might check that out. Did you say it's just on YouTube?
Yeah, from Caliban to Taliban.
From Caliban to Taliban. Okay. I'll bear that in mind. Where do we go? Right. Before this, I'll be grateful to Alex Jones for red pilling me. David Icke red pilled me in January 16. Creation of the Fed. Oh, right. Creation of the Fed and banks. Okay, got it. I got it. Two words. Then I read about the UN Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. It's now Agenda 2030. Yeah. I did a piece on that, Shafted. I had to translate something to do with that. Recently, actually, but it was like just a generic. It was just a generic document, not really very exciting, unfortunately. Does anyone else have any other conspiracies that they find particularly fascinating, like what they like in particular, what they don't like? My other big one actually was, yeah, like I said, Marilyn Monroe and the moon landing. Then obviously 9/11. But what about 7/7 bombings in London? Do you think that was an inside job?
Rob, we ain't gonna open up another can of worms. I've got something lined up for us, right?
Okay.
This is quite a recent one, and what I'm gonna need to do is I'm going to ask your impression when I show you a picture, right? And then you tell me what you think. I'll show you the picture, and while it's on the screen, I'll ask you the question, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully this should be quite oh shit, did I just kill it? Oh no, here we go.
Are you sharing it on
not yet. No, I'm just setting it up. Okay, that's it. Away you go.
Freaking FaceTime every time I put the hat on. So annoying. I'll give you 1 second. Hang on.
Okay. I'm sure we're all familiar with this picture by now.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. Have you noticed that the guy on the far left that says the New World Order is the enemy of humanity, if you look at any picture from the mainstream media, he's been cropped out.
Okay.
I just no. If you Google if you Google image search this, it is actually, like, if you look at any picture from the BBC or Sky TV or whatever, they always crop him out for some reason, and they always crop in close, so they just get in the kind of the pyramid and the guys in the center, but they always crop him out for some reason. And also the sign off on the side, from LA to London. What's the question? We'll wait for Andrew to come back. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, totally. What do you think of this picture anyway? Just with that, if you try and take away what you've heard through the news and whatever, what do you think? What do you think of it as a mural?
As a mural, it's quite good. I like street art. I'm all for it. As a picture, I mean, obviously, you can't really, fully avoid the, the politics of it, I guess. But as a mural, yeah, some of his other stuff seems to look quite good. I don't know who this guy is. I've not followed him, but from doing an image search and seeing some of his other stuff, I think it seems to be quite good. It's quite. I don't know. I want to say conspiratorial, but that's a little unkind. I don't really know the guy's politics. He could well be a raging bigot. I have no idea. But his style's got that kind of punky. It's difficult to say, really. It sort of reminds me of kind of funk album covers, sort of George Clinton style.
I completely agree. I completely agree. I mean, I've got an art degree, and what I want to do for a future stream is for me and a couple of other artists I met at university, and a couple of other artists I know, just to, without the politics, or at least this anti-Semitism kind of thing that's been attached to it, just actually look at it with fresh eyes, but and just see, you know.
It's difficult to do though. I think I'm not sure.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. It is very, very difficult, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, that's the whole point of doing these streams, isn't it? It's discovering and learning on people's opinions, and, you know, trying to work out where things are going, and how other people think, and maybe putting a different spin on things, you know. I mean, sorry, go on. Okay,
I was just going to say, I mean, I like his style. I just don't know anything about the guy, and I would like to know a bit more about him.
Yeah, sure.
To be fully informed, really. But I think as a piece, as far as you can divorce it from the anti-Semitic, you know, aspect that is in the. I don't know. I mean, I think as it stands, it's very difficult to divorce the two. But as a style, I quite like it.
Okay, I'm back with the hat.
Okay, excellent.
Hat on.
Yeah, hat on. Okay, all right.
Oh, safety last.
So you can see the picture, yeah, Angels?
Yes, it's the one. It's the anti-Semitism row one, right?
Okay. So the question is there a Zionist conspiracy to unseat Jeremy Corbyn? That is the question.
Right. Okay. As far as Zionist conspiracy, no, but is he ridiculously smeared by big interests because a lot of his policies don't agree with their pockets? Yes. So, like, obviously our biased press and our media is just going to smear him left, right and centre. But what's funny about this, right, is that, as you all know, because I say it every stream about 5 times, that I'm not a particular fan of Corbyn. I didn't vote Labour in the last election, and I most likely won't vote for them this time.
To be honest, that's half the reason why I picked this one, because I knew you weren't a fan of Jeremy Corbyn, so I wanted your input on it.
Okay, I wouldn't say it's a Zionist conspiracy, but do I think he's unfairly smeared in a lot of our biased media and press because he potentially, like, some of his policies might be damaging for big business, etc.? Yeah, definitely. Like, and as somebody who is not like one of his loyal disciples, such as Swiss, for example, I honestly, even then, I still think that the smears just get stupid. Like, now every time I hear, it's like Jeremy Corbyn is, and he's a spy, and he's this, and then he's something else. And I mean, well, firstly, how can one person be so many things? But secondly, it's just it you know, we were mentioning this yesterday. Like, it's boy who cried wolf syndrome, isn't it? Like, in the end, you switch off. You're like, oh, it's another Corbyn smear. And even for someone like me, it's sort of bullshit, really.
Okay,
so that's my take on it. But it's not a Zionist conspiracy, I don't think.
Okay, my reason for the question is being anti-Zionist or being anti-Israel policy towards Palestine is not being anti-Semitic, right? We must understand those two differences to begin with, and I think everybody that's listening here today, and I think you and obviously G understands that differentiation between the two, right?
Yeah.
Now, if Jeremy Corbyn was Prime Minister and he was elected Prime Minister, it would pose a threat to what basically Israel has had a free ride when it comes to doing whatever they want to do within the Gaza Strip. So when I ask the question, is this a Zionist plot to unseat Jeremy Corbyn, I have to say that maybe that is a part of it. Okay. Now, when it comes to this mural itself, and we talk about that, I really, the only parallels I can draw are the Emperor's New Clothes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the whoever it was, I don't know who the first person was to shout it out, because I mean this was painted in 2012, right? Whoever it was, you know, and they saw a comment from Jeremy Corbyn saying, you know, it looks like a great piece of art, right? Which was, which anybody, I would say, objectively can say, whoever painted that has got talent, right? Why are they not saying, oh, it's blatantly anti-Semitic, right? Now, so because it's blatantly, in air quotes, anti-Semitic, right? So if I don't see the anti-Semitism in it, does that make me anti-Semitic?
No, I mean, like I was saying this yesterday, I looked at it and I was like, oh, like to me, that particular picture, there's actually a remake of it as well. There's like a second version of it, which is like updated and it's a bit more intricate and there's like gold on the table and stuff. But to me, it sort of depicts, obviously there's the Illuminati symbol at the top, but there's also, it just depicts basically sort of rich kind of white capitalists around a table with a monopoly board on the backs of, you know, sort of more downtrodden people. That's what I viewed it as. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, am I anti-Semitic? Like what? Like I don't really mind what religion someone is. I just don't see it as that. You know what I mean? That particular picture. Exactly. I just
see. This is the thing that gets me. There's an element of projection in this. Okay, it's because I don't want to seem like I'm anti-Semitic. So in doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to project you as anti-Semitic for not appreciating the anti-Semitic values in this piece of artwork. So if you do not say this piece of artwork is anti-Semitic, then therefore by default you are anti-Semitic. And I don't understand that
mentality.
That mentality, and I also understand that with the whole mainstream media furore about this, it's all about manufacturing consent, which is a Chomsky thing. So you know, it kind of is. If anybody says, well, can't you just see it as a piece of art? Anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic, anti-Semite, anti-Semite. You know,
but another thing. Yeah, exactly. But like another thing, and I was discussing this with Swish yesterday, right? Is that art is one of those things that people take different things from art. There's not, you know, it's not like reading a word that's been spelled out, for example. There's no one meaning to it. People take what they want from art.
Exactly.
So like one person can look at a picture and be like, oh, it's just a really nice picture, or it depicts the capitalist class, or it depicts this, and then someone else might see something totally different. That's the whole point of it, like in the first place. So whilst some people may interpret it as anti-Semitic somehow, you know, it doesn't mean that it is. It's just like what certain people take from it. If you catch my drift. So
a friend of mine wrote in one of his essays during our degree together. He wrote that where language fails, art has the ability to intercede. Okay, so in those gaps where we don't have the language to express ourselves, that's when we use art. Okay,
that's
to express the unexpressible, to express the unexpressible, essentially, and to show something that cannot be shown. This is where we use art. Now, as an artist myself. One of the first lessons that I had to learn when I was going through university was that you have no control over what other people see in your art. So you can make an art to express something, but other people will see something completely different. Essentially what you were just saying, right? So what I'm doing is I'm agreeing with you there. Yeah, but it's also completely subjective, and to project that subjective feeling that you get off a piece of art is completely wrong. And like I said, this is where it links back to Chomsky and manufacturing consent through the mainstream media. So if we refer back to the original question, is this a Zionist plot to unseat Jeremy Corbyn?
No, it's not. I don't think.
You don't. You're not sold on it. Gee, what do you think?
I don't. What do you reckon, G?
So I'll just coughing there for a minute. I think you can. This is a difficult one because, as I said on Sunday, if I had seen this image, if someone said, "Here's an image," and there was no mention of Jeremy Corbyn or any of this stuff, and just said, "Here's the image," my first reaction would probably have been, "This is not anti-Semitic."
It's a class thing, right?
I see it as a class.
It is. Yeah. I am becoming more convinced that that it is, and simply that I think you can put out a piece of artwork without necessarily being anti-Semitic, and you can consume that art without being anti-Semitic, but that art can still contain elements that can still perhaps naively use elements that are anti-Semitic or whatever.
I'd agree with that.
So the claim is that the men have the large noses, and they're sat around with money, and they've got the pyramid eye behind them, which are symbolic of or symbols used in a lot of very classic anti-Jewish conspiracy theories. You know, it's supposed to go back to the whole Elders of Zion, or those protocol Elders of Zion stuff, which is complete bunkum, and is used. So I think Hitler used it to sort of, drum up his hatred of the Jews. So I'm more convinced that the picture is or contains anti-Semitic elements, but I'm not convinced that the artist is intentionally anti-Semitic. I think he has said that at least a couple of the people are supposed to be Jews, Rothschild and Warburg. Who the rest of them are meant to be, if anyone, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it seems to fall into it falls under the anti-Semitic imagery umbrella, if you see what I mean.
Let me just quickly add that the 1/3 from the left looks the image of my dad.
Okay, so like Christopher Hitchens used to tell a joke, that a rabbi and a vicar and what would be the an imam walks into a pub, and the barman says, "Is this some kind of joke?" Right? So now, is that joke? Is it anti-Semitic because a rabbi's there? Is that Islamist because an imam's there, or is it anti-Catholic because a vicar's there? Or is it just or is it anti-religion because all three of them are there? Now, if you look at the imagery, right now, James O'B was on the radio yesterday, and he said that it's blatantly anti-Semitic because at least one of the people in the picture is similar to the Goebbels anti-Jew propaganda. Okay, so that's one, right? That's one of the people. Out of how many people are in the around the table?
It's about 5 or 6, isn't it?
5, yeah, 5
6, 5 or 6, 3 and 2, or So so that surely that means it's only 20% anti-Semitic. I know that's not an excuse, but what I'm saying is, surely if you weigh it up and say, okay, that's from that thing, that's from that thing, that's from that thing, surely it becomes a more of a class warfare thing, rather than
I don't
I don't see that it's blatantly anti-Semitic.
Yeah, so what you're saying is it's a much more general type of thing as opposed to being specified to one person or one particular thing.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I saw a comment from the artist, and he just said, "Well, it was just a comment on class. It wasn't a comment on Jewish people or the Zionist movement or whatever." But it moves on to my further point. Do you think there is a Zionist movement to unseat Jeremy Corbyn as the leader of the Labour Party? Because there was that Channel 4 thing, a year or two ago, where they were sending Zionists and lobbying people to infiltrate the Labour Party and to plant anti-Semitic things. Just because you're pro-Palestine doesn't make you anti-Semitic.
But like, no, I agree, and I don't think that there is this giant Zionist conspiracy, but I do think that there are vested interests that would rather see Jeremy Corbyn not in 10 Downing Street. That's basically as far as it goes.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a conspiracy. I mean, of course, if you were to say that in public, the Daily Mail would eat you alive. Jeremy Corbyn's politics are counter to the politics, it seems, of Zionism. So inevitably there will be Zionists who don't want Jeremy Corbyn to go any further. Now, whether you extrapolate from that there is an active cabal of Jews trying to do him down, I think is where it's an unnecessary extrapolation to make. And that would be full-on conspiracy theory. I don't think you'd need to go that far. It's clear because he's spent his career speaking out against Israel's crimes, as have many Jews, many Jewish people. Famously have spoken out about it and countered the protest that happened the other day, speaking out and saying, well, we don't agree with things that are done in our name by Israel. So
of course. This is similar, really, isn't it? During the Troubles in Northern Ireland, is like, I'm Catholic, for example, but just because I'm Catholic, am I going to turn around and say that, it's these bombings are like okay somehow? Or no, of course not. Like, it's got nothing to do with that. But the thing is, you are allowed, I was saying this yesterday, like, you are allowed to call a spade, right? So if you see a Palestinian kid being really violently treated by an Israeli troop, you can call it for what it is. Like, you're not turning around and saying, oh my God, Jewish people are evil. You're just basically calling it what it is. Like, this kid is being mistreated by like a grown man with a gun, and that, I don't see that that's a big deal. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? You can't lose grasp of the reality of stuff like that.
No. Just to go back to that comment from James O'Brien that you mentioned, I wouldn't say it was blatant. I mean, that's James O'Brien, I think, being a bit. This is why I don't like him. I find him insufferable.
Well, no, it wasn't just him that said it. It was on Daily Politics. It was on the BBC. It was again, the words were, and it seemed like very Manchurian Candidate kind of thing. They were using the same words. It's a blatantly anti-Semitic mural, and it was those words that everyone seemed to say.
Yeah, I take your point. Absolutely. My criticism of James O'Brien still stands. I think it does still stand, to be fair. Yeah, well, Blaine is just people who aren't aware of that imagery can't be held responsible for not knowing it. I mean, sure, educate people and make them aware of the reality. I would, to be fair though, I would say that if it is the case that only a couple of the people, 20% you mentioned of the men in the picture are actually Jewish, I wouldn't say that makes it any better. It's anti-Semitism is still anti-Semitism, regardless of the percentage of a particular image contains.
Oh
it.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
that would be
No,
true,
I agree
you
with
know.
that. Yeah.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you. But you know, if you had, you know, an imam and a Sikh, and you know, I'm sorry, I don't know what the Sikh guys that do the things are that run the
What?
You know, the Sikh guys that do the, you know, or you had a Buddhist monk, and you know, they're all from a different religious
like
you know,
sort of denomination.
Yeah. How then surely then every single person from that religious denomination has a right to say that it is, you know, it is anti-Islam, it's anti-Sikh, it's anti-Christian, it's, you know, it's all this. So it can't be all these things. So it's either all of them, I feel, or nothing. It's none of those things. It's something that's over and above their religious ideology, surely. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. No, it does.
Well, every claim should be investigated. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, but no one's saying it shouldn't. But as far, you know, it's got to keep a grasp on reality.
I'm sorry. Go on.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Go on, G.
Just carry on, G.
I'm terrible at this is why I don't speak all the time, so I cannot read when people are finished talking.
Yeah,
don't worry. No, it's fine. I'm like sidetracked. I'm like basically working from my phone at the same time, so like sending loads of shit, and so carry on.
Yeah. I can't remember what I was going to say now. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I think claims should be investigated. I think the problem here, of course, is that this is clearly part of, you know, is used to bash Jeremy Corbyn. As anything, you know, he says is going to be used to bash him. And so it's going to take, it's going to make the perception of any claim, genuine or otherwise, that should be investigated about racism, because it should be taken seriously, we all agree.
Yeah.
And twist that into something that's just going to make, I think it's going to do genuine anti-Semitic efforts to deal with anti-Semitism a disservice, because it then is, as someone said, it's the boy who cries wolf.
Cried wolf, yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So I don't know, man. It's ugly.
So it has like the opposite of the desired effect in the end, you know, because people are saturated with it. In the end, they just like roll their eyes and, oh God, here we go again.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that Labour's membership has increased. Someone on Twitter, I have absolutely no way of knowing whether this is true, but someone tweeted, and I saw it, that Labour gained 3,500 new members. So maybe that proves the point.
Hashtag enough is enough.
It's more militant infiltrators.
Isn't the leader of Momentum Jewish?
One of them was, I think. I'm not sure. I think so. Yeah.
I don't know. He might be John Lansman, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, John Lansman. Yeah, he's just been elected. Is he the guy that's just been elected to the NEC? He's Jewish.
Is he?
Is that right?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No, that's Jane Formby, isn't it?
Oh, sorry.
I get
my wires crossed. Sorry.
I'm not sure if that's. I don't know if they've had the election. I know she was standing and she was the favourite.
Oh no! It was her. Sorry, she was the one that was elected to the leader, and she basically said, "Let Blairites get out get out before you get deselected," kind of thing.
Oh, that woman. What's her name? Yeah, she was like, "Oh God, I'm so sick of this purging of the Blairites."
Jane
sorry.
Formby. No, I do. I bring it on. I say I'm sorry. I
know, right? It's about.
Hey, look, you know, you're not offending me. I've already moved over to the right side.
Yeah, a bit too far over to the right side as well.
Come on, Liberal Democrats aren't that bad.
They're not that great either.
Yeah, I know, but you know, it's got to be done.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think this issue is pretty much dead. We've killed it.
We have massively overdone it, but no, I think our conclusion was like people take different things from different pictures, and not to say that there might not be an element within that picture that could be interpreted as such, but overall I think we agree that we don't, you know, when we look at it, it doesn't scream anti-Semitism at us particularly.
Like I said, I want to do a stream. I need to get the right audio, the right people on the stream that are fine artists and stuff. And we're going to try and look at it with fresh eyes and really analyze it from a kind of art historical critique point of view. Like we used to do it at university, and if we can actually dig out exactly if it is anti-Semitic or not.
I wonder if we do have any. I know you said you're an artist, right? If it's an artist stream, by the way, I won't be joining because I can literally draw a stick man and that's it. I'm like the shittest artist you can possibly imagine. Like anything that I draw looks like a 5-year-old's done it.
It would literally be for people that have studied art in like further education. Art, yeah. So I'm really looking for fine artists. So if you want to, if you are a fine artist, I know Stizy, you did graphics, so if you want to join us, that'd be cool. I know.
And Swiss.
Yeah, Old School, who's a digital artist, but he's also got a keen eye for art and studied art history. So he said he's quite interested. And yeah, I really want to look at it from an artist's point of view, and not a layman's point of view. And yeah, like I said, I'm just going back to the one of the original points that I made. It really seems to be a mixture of the Emperor's New Clothes and projection. You know,
Yep.
And that's yeah, that seems to do my head in. So yeah, can you see that through the media, G? I mean, I'm not being completely confused.
I was just having a look at the comments. Well, as I said, I'm becoming convinced that it is anti-Semitic because it uses those tropes. So
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Have you seen the the updated version of that image, and what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that is anti-Semitic in any way, or do you think like the original one
which one worse? Can you screen share and show us, just so we
I don't have it because I don't have it either, but look up Mir One mural sort of updated.
All right, I'll just do that. If I haven't, I'm not aware of it.
Okay.
So.
Or like a new version of it. Swiss shared it. Is he still in the side chat? He shared it yesterday. It's like an update. It's like an update.
Right. I'm just doing a little Google image search. No, I don't know. It's just going to show images. I'm not going to know.
I'm getting a bloody work call again. I'll be back.
All right, no worries.
I don't know where I haven't seen anything that says it's updated. I may have done, actually. I don't know. I think the problem is that if you have a set of images that are, let's say, anti-Semitic, and you use those images, you can't really not be accused of, how can I put this? You can't say that the picture, I don't want to contradict what I said earlier, but I think that if you're using anti-Semitic images, it doesn't mean that they're not, they don't not be anti-Semitic. That doesn't change what they are, even if you are naive to that fact. And that doesn't, I think from that, maybe we don't then hang this guy out to dry. I think that's the sort of message that seems to be coming from the media, and that I don't like that. Hopefully he can understand what he's using and why it's a problem. But it does seem that is the case here.
Well, like what I would say to that is that, have you seen Dogma, the
Yes.
Kevin Smith movie? I really think it's a great movie, but but it was written as a celebration of his faith, but it's very, very satirical. Sorry, yeah. In its way, it portrays his faith, right? Especially with, you know, the Buddy Christ thing. And, you know, he said that when he was in the premieres that he was going to, he had loads of protesters, and he was just like, you know, this is a celebration of my faith. Why is this coming across? You know, and what I think is that you should have the ability to take the piss. I mean, this is a satirical piece of art, I think. You know, and we're legion. Hang on, let me. There is a little further point. Sorry, that I need to make. And we're going into the kind of realms of, you know, the French and the Danish cartoons of Muhammad. You know, I know there was a massive price to pay for those, but does that mean that they shouldn't have been printed? Does it mean that this painting shouldn't have been painted? I suppose we're going into freedom of speech here and freedom of art. Say that. But you know, I think there should be. You know, you've got to, if so long as it doesn't, you know, invoke a revolution or inspire violence. Well, especially with the Hebdo cartoons, I suppose it did inspire violence, but that was in retaliation to them. I don't know. I'm a bit hazy on this whole thing. What do you think, G?
Yeah, that's a free speech argument. I think there are differences.
Yeah.
The Hebdo cartoons were making fun of Islam for its, you know, its strict approach to. They don't like depicting. It's absolutely part of their faith that you don't depict God or the. Yeah. And that's Muhammad. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's fine as an artistic thing, because it's inspired a lot of Islamic art that people find very interesting, and that's okay. I think that's okay. I'm not comfortable with saying to people you can't draw the prophet. This is very difficult, because then it becomes about a reaction deliberately to upset people who have genuine beliefs. I mean, if someone genuinely thinks it is wrong to draw the prophet, if that's their belief, I think that kind of should be respected. If they then take that belief and start executing people, then I have a problem, and obviously we've seen that happen. But at the same time, you know, there were people protesting who weren't armed with machine guns, who are from, you know, the poorer sections of society, as a lot of Muslims in the world, certainly in the Western world and Paris, are. So it then becomes a bit of an elitist statement saying, you know, we're the sneering intelligentsia and we're going to mock your beliefs. That I'm not comfortable with either.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think criticism of religion is fine, and ideally we should be able to do that, but have a care. Don't be an arsehole about it, because in the end, you know, just being a dick to someone about what they genuinely believe is just being a dick.
Yeah.
So I think those two elements stand side by side.
I've heard hard lessons on that one. You know, I've lost many a friend, but due to my hardline attitudes on religion. But I'm sure you'd understand.
Well, yeah, that's what happens. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't want religious people armed with machine guns shooting cartoonists, but at the same time, I don't think that justifies people from just upsetting everyone. It's a bit of a sledgehammer to crack a nut. You can have a cartoon and print the satirical newspaper, and it sounds sort of a very noble stand against free speech, but it's also just kind of being a bit of a dick to otherwise ordinary people who for whatever values and beliefs they may have, aren't otherwise hurting other people just have those beliefs. It makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I suppose, like you said, it is a comment on freedom of speech, like you said. It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. And like I said, going back to the original question, when I look at that, I just look at class, you know, and I'm sure, well, I mean, the person that sprayed it, like, took great care to make sure that not everyone was black on the bottom level underneath the board. And when you, although it's labelled that the people with the big noses, and they say, oh, they're blatantly Jewish. Well, I'm sorry, but when I see those noses, I see people that drink a lot of whiskey. You know, I mean, you're taking your entire history. When you look at a piece of art, you bring your entire kind of past to look at it, and that's what affects your subjectiveness. And for someone to say to you that you're obviously anti-Semitic for not seeing that it is an anti-Semitic piece of artwork, I find is quite disturbing.
Yeah, I don't agree that should be the case. I mean, that saying people is blatantly anti-Semitic. I mean, that, you know, I don't think people should be thrown under the bus for not seeing that. However, that there are still tropes that exist within that picture. Again, without knowing what the artist intended, he may well have just used those. I mean, people may have picked up these sorts of tropes. I mean, the whole big-nosed Jew thing has been around for well, not centuries, but decades at least. I mean, it's a trope that's very popular in the culture. You know, so people may innocently think that that's something that, you know, you can use as a genuine sort of satire. I mean, you mentioned it was satire. I wouldn't call it satire per se. It's sort of political commentary, but because I don't think it's meant as a humorous picture, which I would. So that's what I would think. Qualify as satire per se, but it is certainly a political comment.
Yeah. Chanty.
Yes, mate.
Can you please put your tinfoil hat back on before we wrap up the stream, because it's just too classic. Do you want to know something else? Like, this is how dedicated I am to the cause. When I just took it off, then I took a cool. The tinfoil hat has now made my hair flat, meaning I have to keep it on. So, so sorry. You know, you're gonna have to feel the pain as well.
Said like a classic Surrey lady.
There we go. There we go. Well, I'm not really. I'm more sort of, you know what I mean, sort of West London. It's literally like a stone's throw from the border into like London postcodes.
Yes, I know. So are we gonna right? Do you have any more comments? G, you've been looking at the comments. Was there anything that caught your eye?
They were talking a lot about Freemasonry. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether that is inherently racist. I don't know. I mean, but of course, Masons aren't going to say they're racists.
Can I also add, right? Well, I remember, like, when I was much younger, I remember like asking my dad. I was like, Dad, what is the Masons? Like, what is the Freemasons? And he's like, oh, it's this secret club, and that I can't remember how he explained it, but he just explained it, and I was like, but if it's so secret, why is there blatantly a Masonic hall in Staines with massive letters on the side where you can like, how is that secret? I don't get it. Like, if you have a load of Masons showing up, like, you know what I mean? You can't have a signed like community hall and then expect to be incognito. Look, it's just weird.
It's like the Rotary Club or something. You know?
Yeah, and it was like blatantly like, look, whoever comes through this door is a Mason. Like, what? That's not exactly secret, is it?
Yeah.
It's bizarre. So what exactly is it though? Is it? Because I always hear conflicting stories and I've never really looked into it.
I don't know. Well, that's the whole point there. It's a secret. Like,
well, I think they're supposed to just share interests, just sort of a general, you know, professional peeps sharing an interest and sort of helping each other out. I think. I mean, I have no idea. It's probably pretty boring. I suspect
isn't it
real.
isn't it things like heads of police or judges or like that kind of thing?
Yes, yeah, that's what I mean. Professional peeps.
The fact,
I don't know.
The fact that they had their own offices in Westminster, I think, is a bit weird. You know.
No, but it is weird. But,
yeah, they had their own recruiting offices, you know, so they get to recruit. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's a hereditary thing there as well. So I'm damn sure that, you know, Cameron and Osborne, they're probably Freemasons.
Don't they do a weird handshake as well? There's something something I swear, wasn't it? Like they do this weird handshake, and then one Mason knows that someone else is a Mason or something because of the handshake. It's really bizarre. Do you know? I have a conspiracy of my own.
Are you sure you haven't been watching The Simpsons too much? And that was a stonemason.
I most certainly have, but like, but I think my uncle's a Mason. This is my very own conspiracy. He's just dodgy, and like he has loads of like weird interests and stuff. Like, I think he is.
I mean, like if you're like as far as I can understand it, is if you're like say a relative of a Mason, then you get these little weird helping hands like throughout your life. Like maybe it's the job that you never thought you'd get, or maybe it's the college position or the university position that you'd never think you'd get, and that maybe you weren't really qualified for, but you kind of shot for the stars and you got it. Yeah, it's those invisible helping hands that kind of help you up. That's the way I understand it. If you're a relative of a Mason. You know?
Oh, and I thought I was clever this whole time.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. No, I mean you're a linguist, so you must be talented. So I can't do language.
I only did languages, to be honest with you. I'm like really super like lazy when it comes to doing like schoolwork and things. I just want to go out and have fun instead. So the only reason people go, oh, why did you go into languages? Like what made you? And basically it was because I used to get straight A's whilst doing no work, and I wanted maximum time to go out on the piss. So that's why I did them, because I found them easy, and that's it. It wasn't like this burning desire to be a translator or like, oh my God, you know how wonderful.
And now you're living the dream, mate.
I'm living the dream.
You get to travel all over Europe and, you know, translate for all sorts of people. How many languages do you speak? I know we're going off subject there.
Okay, French, Spanish, German, and Dutch, and I sort of speak like conversational Italian. So yeah, so including English.
5.
Yeah, I always forget that actually. I want to add Chinese to the mix, because translators who have like the main Western European languages with Chinese on top earn an absolute fortune. I was like, so if I do that, earn a shitload of money, then I can retire early.
Meanwhile.
Meanwhile.
Ni hao ma.
Ni hao ma.
All right, are we going into our next? Do we have our next conspiracy lined up?
Well, like I was actually gonna wrap up the stream unless you have something extra. So
I have a little list here.
I don't know how the people are feeling in the chat. Do you want more conspiracies?
We can just do a quick 5 minutes.
Do you want one more? How are you feeling, G?
I'm okay for a bit more.
Yeah, okay. So, G, was there any comments that you saw that were quite interesting?
Well, they were talking, as I said, there was a brief interlude into Freemasonry. Shafted was saying an absolute shit ton of stuff. I can't keep up with it all.
We love you, Shafted.
Yeah, but Belvis said, what did he say? Where did I find it? Criticizing a person is okay. Yeah, Bob Elvis. He said, criticizing a person is okay, but if that person is a Jew, then that is anti-Semitism, which is okay, which I don't quite understand.
Yeah, I don't that.
And then more stuff from Shafted.
Okay, we did get a request.
Not a huge amount.
We did get a request that we should talk about Diana.
Right. Yeah, that's quite a big one, actually. I'm surprised we didn't cover that before. Right. So, obviously, death of Princess Diana, big story. With who was the? It was Muhammad Al Fayed's son, wasn't it? What's his name again? Dodi Al Fayed, right?
Dodi Al Fayed, yeah, that's right.
Okay, so her and her partner at the time, like boyfriend Dodi Al Fayed, were being chased in their chauffeur-driven car by.
Okay, we need to stop. I hate to stop you. We need a question. No, I think the question is the question is, was Diana bumped off by the government, murdered by the government because of her links and her possible divorce to Charles, links to Arab interests and her possible intelligence when it comes to the royal family and her possible divorce to Charles, because I'm sure that Charles having a divorce in the royal family would have been quite unsightly, don't you know?
Yeah, but they're
at that point, weren't they?
Sorry, I did cut off Angels. So Angels.
No, it's fine. I was going to say, but they actually, like, if you think about it, the royal family, like as a whole, have their fair share of like scandals and stuff anyway. So I don't really see why they'd be super worried about it. Everything was common knowledge at that time. It wasn't like they could put that genie back in the bottle. So I mean, why would they worry about it? Like with Diana, a few things don't add up. This is true, right? And it does seem like dodgy. It's also a bit weird that it was like, in a tunnel and very few people, like the only witness they never found and all of this, which does sound a bit strange. But if I'm honest, I think that they were just hounded by press and I think they lost control. And by all accounts, the driver had been drinking, hadn't he?
That's why I had Henri someone.
Okay, yeah, Charles Henri something. Yeah. And so he, I don't
know. The first question is, which is what the first question that we've asked for every kind of conspiracy that we've had, is there a political motive to this?
Yes, I mean, I guess with like the links to the royals, the links to rich Arabs, is that there are basically other issues involved. Yeah.
Okay, so from someone that shall remain nameless, the idea that did you see the photos of the crash?
Yes, it was horrendous, wasn't it? The car was like
folded in two. Essentially, it was a nasty crash.
Really bad.
Now this is essentially the Princess of Wales, right? That's in this car, right? And they were was it a Mercedes? I think.
I don't remember the model car actually. I'm just bringing it up now.
Probably a Mercedes or a Jag, right? Now these things are built like tanks.
Yeah.
Now, for instance, if it hit a pillar, if it hit the side or whatever, for it to fold up like that, it would have needed to be traveling incredibly fast, i.e., faster than the car was actually capable of. Or the car was sabotaged beforehand.
Yeah, this is the big conspiracy theorists thing, isn't it? That the car was basically rigged in the first place so that it would be super unsafe, and then they were driven off the road. That's like basically what people are trying to claim. Now, how would they rig it though? Like, what would they do? Would they replace panels with like more fragile ones? Like what? How exactly would you do that?
No. You'd. I could probably do it to a car if you knew the stress points. So you just need to get an angle grinder, and you just need to grind away at a couple of the stress points. And so on impact, where the stress points and where it's supposed to shock absorb, if you've got cuts where it's supposed to absorb the shock, then it'll just fold, right? But that's just my kind of bullshit understanding. I'm sure.
It says here. Yeah, no, that's exactly. I was going to say that's exactly what it says here. I've just got a page up on my phone. It says that a popular conspiracy theory is that the car was made much less safe, basically, beforehand by taking away shock absorbing panels and something else. And some people think that the brakes were tampered with as well, and then that they obviously were driven off the road. And then when the car lost control, it obviously crumpled up like a concertina, hitting everyone. I mean, it's possible. Like, stranger things have happened to a degree. Do you know what I mean? Like, the establishment and various sort of different interests, so to speak, have been basically bumping people off on the sly for years. Like, some of them have been proven in the past. So you can't tell. But I personally just think that they were absolutely hounded by the press, and it was a tragic, awful, horrendous accident. I do think that.
Yeah, well, fair enough. But again,
when did
I still think she's sitting on an island with Marilyn Monroe, Elvis, and nobody out fired. You know, somewhere in the South Pacific, kind of living life. You know,
I'd like to join that island. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I know, right? But no, you're not rich enough, mate, and you're nowhere near.
Not yet. But I was going to say, what about because lots of the dodgy links, like to some of the associates of the Al Fayed family, actually came out afterwards, and so that obviously fed into the whole conspiracy thing of like, oh my God, you know, she had links to this, and the royal family didn't want to take their chances and what have you. I'm just searching for that now. But what's your take on it? Do you reckon she was murdered, or do you think it was just a tragic accident?
Now the car thing, because I like looking at cars, and I like thinking about the engineering of cars. I'm quite interested in engineering. You know, I had a Lego set. I always loved Lego and Meccano, and I did a couple of years of engineering. So if you look at the cars that, you know, that these states people.
Sorry, I'll just stick it back on. I accidentally clicked it off. Carry on. Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at the cars that these people actually are chauffeur driven in, there is no reason why it should have folded up like a concertina. No reason at all. No. If it has been a consumer car, then I could say, yeah, fair enough. You know, maybe that could have happened, but this wasn't. This was, you know, a car that's custom built to you know, carry people like, you know, royalty and secretaries of state. You know, these. You know, they have bulletproof glass, and you know they weigh like nearly 3 tons. These cars, they're really kind of massive, really heavy. So there's no reason at all why it should have folded up like that.
Yeah, but do you have any idea? I'm just looking for it now because I had a page just open on it, but I couldn't find what the alleged speed was that the car was doing or meant to be doing supposedly at the time. Because really, it doesn't matter if a car is built like a tank if it's doing a big enough speed. You know what I mean? If it collides with something and it's doing hundreds of miles an hour,
yeah, fair enough.
They're dead. You know what I mean?
I'm with you 100%.
So I mean, I don't know. I can't find the speed that it was supposedly, because obviously they looked into the accident majorly.
Well, I mean, we're also assuming that they were wearing their seatbelts in the back seat.
Yeah, I know. And actually, they weren't, though, were they? I remember that being a thing. I remember that people were like saying, "Oh, it was really odd because she always wore seatbelts. She was like it was super routine of her to wear seatbelts like the whole time." And so the fact that she wasn't at the time raised a lot of eyebrows. I do remember that happening. But what's your gut instinct? If it was like gun to head and you had to say, was she murdered? Was she not? What would you say?
No, I don't think she was bumped off. I really think it was a tragic accident.
What about you, G?
I was just trying to look up the speed. Actually, I couldn't see much. The photographer reports that he thought they were going over 60 kilometers. That doesn't sound too fast.
That's 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, it was in a tunnel, wasn't it?
Yeah. In a tunnel, and actually, which is why there were not a lot of witnesses. And there's one car that went off afterwards that apparently had witnessed it, and they looked for it for ages. I remember this, and they never found it. So it drove out of the tunnel. It witnessed the accident, and it was like a grey small Renault or something. I can't remember exactly what car it was, but they were looking for the people in that car for ages. In connection with it, and they never ended up finding it. Like, no one came forward or anything.
Yeah, I think it was an accident. I don't really. I mean, she probably knows a fair amount of stuff. I think she was divorced already at that point.
I think they were planning a divorce at that point.
No, I think she was actually at that point divorced.
Really?
They had already split up. Yeah, I think so. This was.
I thought they were just estranged at that point.
Oh,
they were separated.
No, I'm sure they were.
Okay,
I couldn't look that up. I'm not 100% sure. I don't really think she would have been that much of a threat that you would go out of your way to engineer a car accident. You know, when you think about it, you know, to do that, I don't see it. So no, I don't. Occam's razor again. That's the way I look at these things.
So you think it was just like a tragic accident, basically?
Well, again, we're going to do full circle. So I'm going to wrap up the stream, and I'm going to do a full circle, right? And there is a thing again. Looking at Occam's razor, if we look at the moon landing, what you could say that with the trouble that they took to actually do the conspiracy. Wouldn't have just been easier to actually go to the moon in the first place. When you look at 9/11 specifically, would the government at the time, bearing in mind it was run by Bush Jr., would they have been actually clever enough to run a conspiracy that run literally from top to bottom, that literally run from central office all the way through to NORAD and the people on the ground? This is Occam's razor thing that G's talking about. Is it really within the wit of man to construct these conspiracies and actually follow them through? As we talk about them. The only one that I think is probable would be the Marilyn Monroe one, and I can't really apply the same rules because that's an easy one, isn't it? Really, it's quite easy to knock off an actress that has a drug and alcohol problem.
That's what I mean. Exactly.
Kurt Cobain would be another one on a similar vein.
That's actually another major one, the Kurt Cobain thing, and there was a hell of a lot in that was dodgy, including the suicide note. Have you seen the suicide note?
Yeah, it's really
weird. It's not even in the same writing.
Yeah, exactly. It was closer to Courtney Love's writing, and the fact that he had enough heroin in him to kill a horse, before he was kind of crazy. But again, so G, you've been looking at the comics. Anything interesting?
Bob Elvis thinks Diana was a national security risk, but I think he's a national security risk. So I'm joking, of course. Sharpton says love to you all too.
Yeah.
What else? I'm going to pronounce this in one fell swoop. Kuka Kyoto Tokyo says cars are designed to fold in a way that the folds go around the passengers. If it wasn't designed to fold, then it wasn't designed to fold around the passengers.
Interesting.
And that's about it.
See, I like. I don't, because I'm not really like I don't really know anything about cars, so I don't know. But obviously, I'm smart. and clued up enough to know that they build safety standards in. And I remember people at the time, just when they looked at the wreck after the Diana crash, were like, that is not normal. Like, that is just not normal.
Well, again, like I said, to the specs that these cars were built by, it's crazy. A car built like that should not have crumpled like that. It should Kyoto Tokyo. Kuka Kyoto Tokyo. I think that's the best one. Kuka Kyoto Tokyo, which is I don't know what Kuka means, but I've been to Kyoto and I've not been to Tokyo yet, but I'm looking to.
I thought Kyoto was Tokyo.
No. Kyoto was the first original capital, and Tokyo is the new capital. Kyoto's like miles away, mate. Absolutely miles away from Tokyo. It's a beautiful city. I very, very much recommend it. But yeah, yes, I agree. Yeah, cars are designed to crumple around the passengers, but with the Diana crash, it crumpled in on the passengers, which was kind of fucked up and weird. Which is the difference if you see the pictures of the crash.
Oh, okay. So, are we going to do like a roundup of all the things that we've done and what do the other guys think as well? Know if they're not as big conspiracists as us.
So any final thoughts there?
I was going to say the only one that we have, we won't go into it in depth. I'm just going to skim over it before you wrap. The one that we didn't mention was the 7/7 bombings in London. Do you think that was an inside job, or do you think that genuinely was ISIS, Al Qaeda? What was it? Al Qaeda inspired, or was it ISIS? No, I can't remember. Yeah,
Al Qaeda.
Al Qaeda. Okay, so it was claimed that it was inspired by Al Qaeda. I don't think it was an inside job. I think it was too messy with how one of them went on the bus and stuff at Russell Square. I don't think it was an inside job. I think that genuinely that was.
I think there's enough evidence to sit in the grey area, but I'm not convinced on the political motive. No, considering it was after the Iraq War. Yeah, I'm not convinced on the political motive. So.
No, me neither. So a good conspiracist would say,
No, I think it was as advertised. Unfortunately, horrible and unpleasant.
Yeah. There's only there are two things that I couldn't wrap my head around. Right, the first thing is the bus. The bus was doing a different route than it normally would.
Yeah. Was it? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the bus that was bombed was actually doing a different route than it was. The other thing is the bomb that was on the tube. If you look at the wreckage, it looks like the bomb came from the track rather than the tube itself. So it blasted through the floor, as opposed to outwards from within the tube.
Oh, that's dodgy. No, I haven't read this. I thought that it just made the floor of the tube collapse, and that's why the remnants were found on the track. But I don't know.
But if you look at the photographs from within the train, then you actually see it coming up through the floor.
Oh God, really? No, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought was weird, and yeah, like I said, the weird route that the buses were taking at the time. And remember I was saying before about 9/11, and that they managed to get NORAD to stand down due to war games. Now it was the same thing within 7/7, is that the emergency responders didn't know whether to react, because apparently they were doing some war games in the subway within London at the same time. So it kind of helped confuse the emergency responders. So again, there's enough grey area to
for it to potentially
be a conspiracy theory, but I'm not sure whether there is enough political motive to warrant it. So
you know, well, nearby us, you know, Royal Holloway, the campus, University of London campus. There's a memorial there for a girl who actually was killed on the bus at Russell Square.
Right.
She was a student up there. Yeah, they've done a memorial in her name. And my friend Alex, who I used to work with over in Windsor at Brown's, she knew her. She was in the same class as her. She was like, it was just shocking. Like everyone in the class was obviously just horrified, and because apparently she had rung home to say, "Don't worry, I'm out of the tube. I'm on a bus." And then of course the bus
blew. Yeah.
Awful. Bloody awful.
So you know, did you hear about the case of the kid recently that has Asperger's, that wanted to play a practical joke, and he left a homemade bomb, but it wasn't really a bomb. It was just he wanted to play a practical joke because he's got like Asperger's. He didn't really understand the
consequences.
emotional consequences of it and what he did. So he wanted to play a practical joke. So what he did is he left a backpack on a train. I think it was a train or a tube. Anyway, he then got off and he got arrested for it.
Right.
Now, because of his condition and because of his understanding, he recently got sentenced, I think, 30 years. It's really kind of harsh, and I'm not so sure how I feel about that. But that's a separate situation. But it's kind of a consequence from 7/7 is that you can't take any chances.
No, I agree.
Gee, you're going to say something.
Yeah, 30 years is way too harsh. I think one of the traits of Asperger's is that you don't realise the full consequences. I'm sure his intentions were just a prank, and he would not have the context would just not have entered into his mind. So,
yeah.
Just sad, very sad.
Yeah. Okay, have we got... Oh, right, okay. Kuka Kyoto Tokyo. Please tell me if that's right. Yeah, I know. Please tell me if that's right. MK Ultra. That's an interesting one. I think these can be some ideas for if you want to do a second stream. Angel, I don't really want to attack any of these now because these are massive, like cans of worms that people are talking about.
Once we open,
yeah. Alien constructing the pyramids. That's a nice one. I'm kind of doing some research into that now, Callum. Honestly, I'm just reading Magicians of the Gods by oh god, fuck's sake. Why is it I get too much wine inside my system and my bloody vocabulary goes tits up? Hang on. Magicians of the Gods by let me just pull it up. Graham Hancock, that's it. Graham Hancock, Magicians of the Gods, which is a follow-on to Fingerprints of the Gods, and it's not about aliens, but about a forgotten civilization. So that could be quite interesting. What did he? Right. Callum asks, what did he make the bomb out of? I don't think he made the bomb out of anything. I think he just left a backpack on a train.
Who was the guy? Who was the little bag bomber? You know, the guy who went on the tube and then it like luckily no one died, but I think there was some people were burned or injured or whatever. But there was a guy who recently got on a tube train, and he had like a bomb, like a homemade bomb in a bucket in a Lidl's bag. And then no, this was recent. This was like me and Swiss and Ben and a couple of others were like chatting about it recently. Yeah, it was really recent. I think he's recently gone to I think it was recently in court and stuff. I'll look that up.
All right, so shall we? You know, this is the thing, right? I'm just about to wrap up this stream. We've got like more viewers now than we had at the entire, through the entire stream. We've got 10 watchers now, and we've been averaging between 7 and 9, right? And now we've peaked. And then Captain Swiss is back.
Oh, Swiss can help me out then. Swiss, we were talking about that guy who left the bomb in the Lidl bag on the tube train. That was recent, wasn't it? When we were talking about it the other day. I'm just looking it up, but one of the top searches is Little Bag for Life. It was actually a bag for life.
Yeah, no shit.
Little bag bomb. Oh, that's it. Yeah, it was an attack at Parsons Green.
Oh, the Ahmed, what's his name? 16-year-old kid.
Was he
16-year-old kid?
Was he only 16?
Oh, I remember reading about this because I was talking with someone on Twitter about this, and they were using it as some evidence to blame Muslims for everything.
Yeah.
I engaged with them on Twitter because I'm an idiot.
Chilling CCTV shows Parsons Green attacker leaving home with bomb in Lidl bag 90 minutes before tube blast injured 30. Luckily, nobody was killed, actually.
Wow, that seems quite intense.
This CCTV could show the Parsons Green attacker leaving his home with a bomb 90 minutes before the thing. A homemade device inside a Lidl bag partially exploded on a packed London Underground train at Parsons Green. Who's the attacker? Let's see. You said the guy was only 16, right?
No, I think he was 18. He came to Britain as when he was 16, and he had been indoctrinated as a child soldier by ISIS. Like, they give the kids guns sort of thing rather than tell them to go and blow up the foreign powers. So I think I was having a conversation with someone. They were using it as an example of people coming here to. The claim was that the borders let terrorists through and all this rubbish, and it was just a bit more nuanced than that. That he was a damaged kid who ended up doing something horrible.
Yeah. I mean, it says here as well that the adoptive parents or his foster family or whatever actually lived in a house in Sunbury, which is like up the road from my parents.
Oh my God, that's so close. That's so close to me. So close to both of us, man. Yeah. I know, right?
You know what's really weird? Me and Shamsi discovered that we literally grew up down the road from each other, only a couple of years apart. Like, I know the school he went to, and I know the college he went to. I nearly went there myself. It's so weird. Like, out of the deep, dark web, and that's what we get, you know?
Conspiracy.
Yeah. Oh my God, we
got the fucking tinfoil hats on, mate.
Exactly. Yeah.
The tinfoil hat brother and sister. That's what it is.
Yeah.
To be honest, I did, like, when I first heard you on Captain Swiss stream, I spotted that accent a mile away. You know, and, my sisters have all got the same accent. So, like, the only reason I've lost my accent is because I have to speak pidgin English, like, day in, day out. But when I speak to my parents, and normally I would let my accent go rip when I talk
like
to
London
you,
London Southeast.
No, London Southwest, mate.
Well, yeah, no, that's true. But I mean, like, the Southeast is a general, you know what I mean? Like that, just that type of accent. Yeah, I can't find what age he was, but I suppose, you're right. He came here at age 15. His parents had died in Iraq. He came here to a foster family in Sunbury on Thames, and then he left the bomb on a tube train at Parsons Green last year, September.
Yeah, I remember it now.
Yeah.
That was awful. I mean, it was just as well, because apparently it was like a really hefty bomb, but it didn't, like, it just partially exploded. So people just suffered from burns, and that was it. Like.
Okay.
All right. Right. So are we going to wrap?
Yeah,
wrap
I
up the
think so.
tinfoil hats
Yeah. Wrap up our tinfoil hats. That's kind of a really good tagline. Let's wrap up our tinfoil hats for now, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I want to do a wrap up stream, just to chill out. And if anybody wants to join, say yes. Captain Swiss, I know you've got a stream at 6. Can you give us 30 minutes online? But you've been
just
popping
to chill
in and out.
and I know like, because I've got work to do, but I can hop in and just chat shit for a little bit. But I can take more work calls then and stuff. And
okay, what do you think, G? Just to wind down, just to wrap up.
I could spare half an hour or so. I'd have to pop in and out to burn some chicken for my dinner.
Okay, wicked.
That's cool.
Well, what I'll do is I'll drop. I don't have any followers on Twitter, so I'll drop the link on Twitter, on my main feed, and then join if you want to join. If you don't want to join, I want to thank you, everybody that have joined us. I'm trying to think what I've got coming up in the next week. I think oh god, what have I got? Hopefully with Captain Swiss this weekend. We've got Guess Who. That should be fun with Roland Does Politics and Lexit from the New Left. That should be quite interesting. Angels, I did engineer the last one towards you as well. Did you watch the last Guess Who that we did last?
I a bit of it. I haven't actually really got round to watching it all yet, but I can do later.
No, it's fine. If you'll join us for the next one, because it really works with a really good full panel. And I was really hoping that you would join us, because I did engineer a couple of them towards you, but it doesn't matter. It'll be round 2, and Captain Swiss is going to pick the next pictures for the next one. So I think that's all I've got for the next week. What about you, Angels? What have you got planned as far as the tubes is concerned?
Oh, right. Okay. So I normally just do things sort of last minute. So I will probably be joining in on the pretty much on the streams on and off this week, because I'm mainly working from home, and I might do some last minute Q&As and hangouts and chill outs on my channel. So if people want to sub to me, because I always do things last minute, just ding the bell, and then when we set it up, you'll get a notification. So I haven't really got any set plans, but this week is much easier for me than last week, because last week I was showing a friend of mine, well, Skyline, like showing her around the country and stuff, and other countries for that matter. So I was exhausted and I didn't really have much time, online. But I will be around more this week, but it's going to be more last minute.
So. No, that's fair enough. To be honest, because I was inside, I literally come home from a restaurant when I linked the thing, and I forgot to put your channel in the description, but I will do that later. After the wrap up, but yeah, make sure you click Angel's link and sub, and make sure you hit that bell thingy so you can get the notifications. G, I missed your last debate with was it Vogon? Yeah.
I don't really know him that well, but that was that. You apparently had 2 channels.
Yeah, it wasn't really a debate, to be honest.
No, I don't.
It was a
I'm
discussion.
Not really interested in formal debates are not my cup of tea. Discussions are much nicer.
Yeah, but even then, yeah, I'm gonna reserve my comment, to be honest. But yeah, it wasn't a debate as I would see it. Again, I would point people towards Captain Swiss's the debate between Mantle and Old School. I would say it was a really good debate where people actually respected other people's.
I watched that. Yeah.
Stuff. And I thought that was brilliant. And that's how people should look at debating in the future. I really think. Because when I look at it on other channels, it really just resorts to people being shouted down. And I think that's
name calling. Yeah.
Name calling. It's just. And I saw a little bit of that in what you got involved in with G, and he just didn't respect your opinion. And I thought that if you're going to start off in that circumstance, how are you expected to learn anything from this discussion or debate or whatever?
Yeah.
But anyway,
well, no, I don't think he was too bad. To be fair, he didn't understand the point, but you know, I can't expect to persuade everyone. I mean, I gave him my point of view, and it's up to him whether he's persuaded by it. He was all right. I've had worse.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap up. My name is Chamchi Gimba, and I am the conspiratorial fish. Thank you very much to Angel for joining me for this fun video. You've been brilliant, and thank you for G for joining us just to give us a little dose of sanity. Thank you very much. Please stay tuned, because I will be coming right back in with a bit of a wrap up, and I will post it on Twitter. Make sure you join me, and see you in 5.
See you guys. Thanks for having me. Bye.